All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We're just a bunch of Kiss fans and we talk Kiss. So come along for the ride. You've got nothing to lose. All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. We've got the full gang here today. Lonnie, Mark, Daniel is back from wandering the nether regions of Eastern Europe. You made it back safely. That's good. Adventure. And Ken. So we got Kiss Vids, we got Kiss Rocks, we got Austin Newland, Randy Parker, Stargazer Max. Thank you for joining us, and Bernie. Thanks for joining us live. If you're joining us now or joining us later, we appreciate you tuning in to this weekly Kiss podcast. All things Kiss. Even when there's nothing to talk about, we'll still find something to talk about because we're Kiss fans. And Kiss fans always got something to talk about. All right, let's get into the news. Today, the 25th of July. Is it the 25th? Well, it's the anniversary of Eric Carr's first performance with Kiss back in 1980. So always cool to look back on that. I still hold out hope that there will be a soundboard of that show surface at some point in the future. It's probably lost on a shelf in the Fortress of Solitude, but I would love to hear that show, the only US show they performed for the Unmasked touring cycle, and really throwing Eric Carr to the wolves. He'd give the next 11 years of his life to the band. So this was the starting point of that. Also celebrating an anniversary today. It's the 30th anniversary of Kiss's homecoming to New York City on the reunion tour. The first night of a 4-night stand at Madison Square Garden. A very special homecoming for the band. Just a month into the reunion era, getting back home for 4 shows. Friends and family and a whole bunch of crazy ass fans. Been checking out quite a few of the videos from the reunion tour at the moment online, and there's a pretty decent one from the 25th if you so.
It was crazy there in New York. Just really quickly, I was there with a couple of guys in my band at the time. We were in New York City doing a negotiation for a possible record contract, and it was that week when Kiss were playing there. And New York City was the vibe in the city was unbelievable. Everywhere you looked, there was Kiss stuff. Taxi cars, on the doors, they had Kiss on there. Buses, they had on the signs up overhead. It was just Kiss crazy. I went to a restaurant, and the ladies there were all wearing Kiss t-shirts. They had like some kind of thing for the restaurant where everybody wore Kiss attire. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I bet in December 2023, when I was there for the multiple shows at the Garden, those same girls were there, but they were now grandmothers wearing the same t-shirts. So, yeah, New York City, crazy town for Kiss. I'm glad I got to see them at the Garden 3 times. So I never got to see the originals there, unfortunately, but there you go. That's my lot in life. Moving on to, well, we did a couple of videos during the week, merchandise that's dropped. Let's just get these guys and people who are in the chat watching, get your opinions. Now, let's start with the NECA action figures or whatever they're called. And right down in the bottom left, you can just see the little disclaimer, final product may vary. Anyone on this panel or in the chat going to be purchasing these because they're really lifelike.
Get the right tie, at least.
Buy everything. How many sets have you ordered?
Yeah, I ordered 3 sets. No, yeah, I looked at these and like I hope they're not the final
version.
Product. Yeah, because there's some issues with these that not just maybe the face on a couple of them, but just their body parts. Like, what is that, or what is underneath that? Those clothes.
Easy.
What the hell? You want full anatomy there or something? What's going on?
Well, it looks like if you look at the knees area, for instance,
Daniel Scorn there. Look at him.
Like Gene, it's something's messed up there. It's just like I don't know. I think it's a robot, it's not really a person. So I don't know.
Yeah, Gene's a little bit like Urkel in here. As already mentioned in the chat, Peter's the only one who gets a fair treatment here, though it looks like he's got a clip-on
that's
tie.
okay.
These are dreadful, in my opinion, and I hope these are nowhere near the final product, because if these were approved, I gotta say, I said it to you guys just before when we were talking about this. This one, Paul, if you wipe the makeup, also doubles up as a share doll. Mark,
Yeah.
did you buy these?
Absolutely not. I mean, I did get some of the dolls like back in the day, like Psycho Circus era. I got some of those McFarlane ones, but no, this is just. I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face if I bought these things. I'd be laughing constantly just looking at them. I mean, look at Paul's face in that one. Come on. I mean, it just looks terrible. It's like he's sucking his cheeks in so much. Like, it's unbelievable. Look at that. Like, it's wow.
He's judging you.
It's not a nothing that takes any interest to me. So that's a pass.
What about Daniel? Dolls for okay, guys. In the chat, you're saying action figures. Yes, they are 7-inch, fully articulated action figures. I always call them dolls. Daniel, you gonna buy the dolls?
I think they nailed the ill-fitted suits at least, and also Gene's tie looks pretty much like the one that accompanied one of the box sets. It seems like it's the right tie. So that's kind of cool, but I don't know. I think the best action figures were those made by McFarlane. I think they were called Creatures, but they were wearing Dynasty or Unmasked costumes. I think those were really good, but after that they haven't been able to to do something great in this section when it comes to action figures. Most of them look really crappy.
Lonnie, you've got space on your shelf right behind you for some new action figures. You in?
Well, my reaction was not the same as Ken's. My first thought wasn't what's underneath those clothes, but
yeah, what's underneath those?
But sorry, that was too good. They had those other Dress to Kill dolls that came out, I don't know, maybe about a decade ago. Those were pretty cool. And I have those, but these, yeah, they're a little rough. I'm probably gonna pass on them unless they get jazzed up between now and the time of release. So right now it's probably a no. I don't think I'm with Mark. I don't think I could buy them with a straight face.
Yeah, you know what? They're not for me, but we're still going to talk about them. Still going to do a little merch alerts on the site for them, because you know what? They'll be cool to someone. The last set of action figures I had were the original 1997 McFarlane. I think they were tour edition. They arrived in a box and they went straight down the garbage chute, still in box. So
wow.
Other merch dropping this week is 50th anniversary of a single that didn't chart. The Detroit Rock City single backed with B-side Beth, the worst edit in the Kiss singles catalog of a song, I believe.
Yes.
So they've got the merchandise for t-shirts, and this I thought was a lady's t-shirt, but I guess the model was a guy. So very 70s kind of retro-ish, but it's just the cut to it doesn't look right to me for a male. But there we go. That's more of a masculine t-shirt.
Terrible.
An army green t-shirt, and the singles are actually do very well, and they are very popular. And Mark, you know what? We're gonna get you a sticker. How about that? We get Mark a sticker. Yeah, Mark, get us started on that.
Well, that's single. I mean, the t-shirt I don't have so much of an issue of. I can understand the army green and stuff like that. But as you mentioned earlier, and I did leave a comment on one of your little videos that you did, Julian, about this, that why would they do such a treatment for such a horrendously edited song like Detroit Rock City? Unbelievable. Like, they could have did any other single on the album or any other song off the album, and it would have been a better idea, I think, than Detroit Rock City. I mean, I still can't believe when I listen to that single every once in a blue moon that Ezrin, in all his genius, approved that sort of an edit. It just sounds terrible, But then maybe I do believe it. I mean, he totally botched the album anyway, so why not botch the single, right? So I just don't understand why they would redo that in this way. Give a a sort of makeover or a proper premium version of it to another song than that. Any song than that.
Yeah, I mean, the single did not chart anywhere except Germany. Lonnie.
I mean, I get why they're doing it. They're still celebrating Destroyer all year. They've done the other two singles, so they're going to do this one too, of course. And if that's your, if that's your thing, that's cool. That red shirt is absolutely horrendous. I have a lot of Kiss t-shirts, but I that's really bad.
Don't want to go for a jog in that.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll turn into a run from the people with pitchforks.
It would turn heads, that's for sure. So
we don't like your type around here,
right? Yeah, in middle America, yeah. Yeah, no, the green shirt's not horrible. It's not horrible. I mean, there's a lot worse Kiss shirts these days out there than that.
Oh yeah,
that one's not horrible, but I mean, I guess we're gonna get a Beth version of this here before the end of the year too, I would imagine.
Ken, you buy everything.
Yeah, I do buy everything. Before I say that, going back to the other thing, this figure was okay. I mean,
yeah, I like that line that they did. There's a Dress That Kills one like that too.
The action or
yeah.
the toy figure or something,
yeah,
company or whatever it is.
What the hell do you do with it?
Huh?
What the hell do you do with it? Do you play with
display it?
Oh, I play with it.
Is there like a pull string behind him? You're pulling, goes, I want your money.
He puts him in any crazy pose.
I have a few jeans.
Gymnasium.
Yeah.
I have a few jeans of those, but otherwise, I don't buy the full sets of those. I only had the original set of 4, but way back, the Mego ones. But the shirts, that's a woman's shirt, in my opinion. I mean, it just is. I saw it, and I thought, okay, that's for a woman. That's for me. I'm sexist. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing that shirt. And then the other one it's just a lazy. Anybody could have made that shirt. That design. It's just, it's not appealing. I mean, we've seen worse from them, but that's just. Sometimes I don't understand who is or how they come up with some of these shirts. I just think they could do a lot better. There's been some better ones as of late, coming out, but that's not one of them.
Well, it will be appealing after the first wash. Daniel,
I think it's a big yawn. Everything. The singles for me personally. These type of singles were already dead in the water when I started listening to music. So I've never been a collector of these kind of singles. When it comes to the T-shirts, there are way better T-shirts. Of course, the green one, it's okay. The red one, I think it's a bit similar to early jerseys from the Detroit Red Wings. Maybe some Detroit fans can appreciate them. So they have those like broad white stripes, and it was red and not too much stuff on it. So maybe someone in Detroit likes it and buys it and takes it for a run. I guess Lonnie won't.
Yeah, more power to anyone who likes it. There was a good comment from KissVids. I was hoping for an Originals 50th release. Yeah, that was, I think, July the 21st is the 50th anniversary of the Originals release date. And boy, that's one that people have actually been clamoring for years, to have a reissue of that and Originals too. Again, they're just pumping out easy stuff. So you think of what the price point would be on represses of those albums. We know that there's a more recent mix of the first album, but is there a more recent mix of the other Well, the second
Yeah,
one, there's
Dress to
certainly
Kill
is.
there is too.
Dress to Kill there is.
Mhm.
So it may be that they don't have Hotter Than Hell yet, which, kind of prevents them from doing it, or they don't want to do that before dealing with that as an anniversary edition or
Box.
something.
Mhm.
Who knows? But again, I would love to see a reissue. I really liked when Disc Union did the extra packages for the Japanese box set years back for one of the remaster reissues where you could assemble your own originals and originals too. And I did with one of them because I had extras of the pre-printed die cut original sleeves. So that was kind of cool. Let's move on. Mailroom this week. Anyone buy any Kiss stuff this week? Marcus Almighty bought some Kiss stuff.
What?
Wow.
It's a miracle.
What's King Crimson going to do without your sales this week?
Well, they'll have to wait a week or two. But, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, that with the exception of the latest album that they put out with that, the Anaheim or whatever that show is there, I usually, when they were releasing records online, they were, a little pricey, I found. And then when you add in the shipping to Canada, it was just ridiculous.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times I would wait and hold out and see if sometimes my record store here would sometimes get copies of these records in for some reason. I mean, I got an anniversary copy of Hotter Than Hell at my record store. And the reason why I was ecstatic when I found this is because it saved me a lot on shipping, of course. And I didn't have this. And, I thought it was an interesting package, so I wanted to grab it. So I got myself finally the anniversary of the Elder, right?
Oh, nice. German.
Yeah.
Is that the clear vinyl then? I
Yeah,
think,
it's the
right?
clear vinyl with all the that
Yeah.
poster card and
Mhm.
the German lyrics and the
Half Speed
English
Master.
lyrics. Yeah, the Half Speed Master, and it was on sale there for like $33 Canadian. So I was like, okay,
That's good.
and it saved me on the shipping, which would have been like easily doubled the cost of it. So I jumped at it. I mean, it looks very nice. I like the way they did the the sort of coloring and the embossed, door handle and all that stuff on here too. So it turned out really good. I was very, very, very happy to grab a copy of it. I mean, the thing that I was extremely happy about, because I didn't realize that I was in there, was this little cardboard thing here, right?
Oh yeah.
And it has the example of
That's the Japanese style.
the Japanese style in there.
cover.
So yeah, it was great in there. And it was funny when I got it and I opened it. My mom was in the other room and I showed her the German lyrics to it, and she was fascinated because she's German, so she was reading through it and she was looking at me and I don't know if she disapproved of the lyrics or what it was, but she gave me this look. But she found it fascinating reading German lyrics there. So, but yeah, I'm glad I bought it, and it's another thing to my collection now.
Did you play it? Because
No, I just
that one really sounds good, Mark. That's very well done.
I'm gonna
So
compare it.
check it out.
I have a couple of pressings. I think I have like 6.
I think you're gonna like it. It really sounds good.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'll let you guys know what I think.
Yeah, very cool. That was a beautiful looking release. I got one. It arrived damaged, unfortunately, so I just sold it on for a loss because I was so bummed out by it, which was a shame. All right, let's get into some board topics this week. And one of the first ones that comes up is actually from the Gene and Paul appearance on the Trackstar podcast, where it's gotten a very good response from people who've listened to it about they walk through some of the music that they liked, some different acts, and they talk about the songs. So if you have any thoughts on that podcast appearance, first start with that. But I wanted to knock it around a little bit, that if you had an opportunity to interview them for that kind of series, what songs would you be asking Gene and Paul about? 2 songs. They could be Kiss, or they could be songs that you think influence them, or acts that influence them. There are no real rules around that. Lonnie, let's start with you on that. Did you check out, or did you get a chance to check out that podcast?
I did not get a chance to check it out, I'm gonna be honest with you. Sorry, but Paul's such a big Zeppelin guy, and he always credits Jimmy Page as being a huge influence to him. So, I would ask him about some Zeppelin tunes, like Whole Lot of Love or something like that, and I'd ask Gene about the Beatles, because Paul, I think Paul always references Zeppelin, more than anything, and Gene references the Beatles more than anything. And I really feel that that's their biggest influence. I know Paul suddenly became a big Motown guy and credits that as his biggest influences sometimes, but I think Jimmy Page is his biggest influence. So I'd ask Paul about Whole Lot of Love, and maybe Gene about, I don't know. Gene likes those old Beatles songs typically, like I Want to Hold Your Hand or She Loves You, like really classic old school early Beatles. So those are the types of things I'd ask him about.
Mark, what about you?
Honestly, I would ask them about specific songs of theirs. I mean, one song that I would love to talk to Paul and Gene about is 100,000 Years. That's one of the songs I find is so different from a lot of the rest of their songs in their catalog. It just seems so much more, I'm not going to say progressive, but it's definitely not so simply structured. It has like long guitar solo sections and stuff like that. And the guitar interplay between him and Ace, you know, with the one's doing that, the other one's doing just more basic chording underneath it. I just wanted to know what the inspiration was for that song, because like I said, compared to the rest of their catalog, especially within the first 3 or 4 albums, it's definitely one of those songs that sticks out like a sore thumb, but I've always loved it. And I, especially in a live version of it as well, I thought it was fantastic. And the other song that I would, excuse me, ask them about was one that we just talked about a second ago, was Detroit Rock City. More specifically, why they did what they did to it as far as the single, but more importantly, after hearing the original demo of it, I'd love to know how much Bob's input was on there. It's obvious that there was quite a bit, but what was the specific things he added, and how was Paul with that? Like, I mean, you know how Paul is with letting go control of things, especially his own music. Did it take a lot to convince him to do the things that Bob wanted or not? Those are the kind of things I'd be interested in finding out.
Yeah, good picks there. I'm actually surprised that you go with a Destroyer song to ask about. The irony is very thick here.
Yes.
So, all right, Ken, you see in the comments from Bernie that Gene did a show last night and Ace of Spades and House of Pain was back in the set.
Well, I'm glad he didn't do that at our show that we saw, a month ago or so, whatever. Geez, that's too bad that they brought that back. It's why? I just don't get that. Anyway,
in honor of David Lee Roth canceling his tour.
Yeah, I don't know what songs or anything I'd ask them about so much. I'm sure they're tired of all that, being asked about those kinds of things and stuff. In that interview, though, I was happy that Neil Sedaka came up for a moment, and then I was like, oh yes, because they talked about Carole King, the Brill Building, and all that stuff. All the writers are there, and Neil Sedaka was one of them, and about how Neil went out with Carole King when they were really young, like teenagers. And then he wrote "Oh Carol," and that became a big hit. And actually, she did a song called "O'Neill" later. That's kind of a I don't know, answer kind
Tribute?
of song. Yeah, tribute answer kind of song to his song. But anyway, yeah, I was happy to see that because Neil had passed earlier this year, and I know Paul had sent a nice comment about when Neil had passed earlier this year. So yeah, I was happy about that. I mean, but I was happy about them talking about all different kinds of music, and just hearing that, about their love of different kinds of music and that sort of thing. So, and them being very knowledgeable of it, kind of the way we are knowledgeable of Kiss stuff and Kiss songs and history and all that stuff. So I don't know what I'd ask him about, what songs or anything like that. I really wouldn't.
Didn't they talk about the New York Dolls personality?
Yeah, they did talk about New York Dolls. That was interesting. Yeah,
I still think that's the wrong song to ever go into with them, because that pet theory of mine about looking for a kiss and the connections with the
Yes.
dolls. And Here's Kiss is just one that they need to be put under the, the water torture, bright lights, and did you take your name from the New York Dolls? Admit it. Admit it. Admit it. All right, Daniel.
Well, I think first of all, it was a great interview, a bit different from what we've seen previously, and I think Gene and Paul were kind of open with their answers and didn't go for the gymnasium and we were going to be the band we never saw on stage and that kind of thing. They were kind of open and had great answers and seemed to enjoy themselves during the interview, actually. So if you haven't checked that one out, you should go and check it out. Well, when it comes to what I would like them to discuss, I'm more interested in Kiss's music than their roots, so to speak. So I would like to hear, I know Paul wouldn't say much about this, but maybe Gene, I would like to hear some stuff, some insight into the collaboration with Vinnie Vincent, both with Unholy and the stuff on Revenge, and also the stuff they did for Creatures. Maybe he would open that can of worms. I don't know. And the other thing is, of course, their collaboration with Bob Ezrin, but primarily for the Revenge record, when they managed to turn the ship around, at least how they sounded, and to create a great record once again. It didn't sell that much, but it was such an effort went into that album. I would like to hear what Bob did to them, how he tortured them in order to make that such a great record when the previous one was kind of a mishmash between, different demos. Those two things I would like to know more about.
Yeah, I think what this podcast gave me is that there's hope. There's hope that these guys can still be interviewed in a more meaningful and different sort of perspective than what we've become accustomed to and what they've become accustomed to, because they're obviously able to discuss things without falling back on a series of canned comments or flippant responses that they've relied on for 50 years. So for me, it was really refreshing. I know there's some disagreement about, Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground part of that. But you know what? It's still refreshing that they go into those sorts of things. And again, with the Gibson guitar interview as well, there have been opportunities. Gene with Billy Corgan, again, that was an opportunity missed because Billy was trying to prompt him into those directions.
Yeah.
But here's one where they did go in those directions. And I think that was recorded the day before the
Songwriters
Fame. So it's pretty recent and pretty fresh. So it's totally refreshing from that perspective, and it's just nice to get material that is new and isn't just the same old where you're rolling your eyes when Gene says gymnasium or Paul says something again. Given the opportunity, they really can do a fantastic job. All right, this is just for Daniel and Mark particularly. Everyone's going to chime in, obviously, but Bruce Kulick. What did he say this week? Kiss is more complicated than you think musically. Agree or disagree? Mark, let's get started with you on that.
I agree. I agree totally. I mean, most people, when you hear within the community musicians I know, whenever you say, let's go to a jam or let's do a jam night one night or something, and you say, let's do a Kiss song, they're usually like, yeah, that's easy enough. Like that's always the sort of consensus that it'll take 5 minutes to learn it. But if you're going to play it the way it actually is, it may not be 5 minutes for some of the songs. I mean, even take a simple song like Cold Gin. I mean, Paul's playing a totally different sort of chord structure under the dan, 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 than Ace's. He's doing something more in the first position, whereas Ace is higher up. So there are things where they play off each other, like 100,000 Years. Another example, they're totally playing different things in those parts at the beginning and in the verses as well. And a lot of those harmonized guitar parts, King of the Nighttime World, all those parts that are harmonized. You can't learn that in 5 minutes. You got to have to sit down and kind of figure it out. Same thing with Detroit Rock City and other songs like that as well. I mean, there's there's more to some of these songs than you imagine. I mean, even songs I don't like or despise, like Great Expectations, there are some chordings and chord voicings in there. They're not this basic cowboy chords. You know what I mean? And cowboy chords are just like, A, D, C, like all the sort of simple chords that you learn when you first started playing guitar. So there is a lot of, things that are done harmonically. That's not exactly the most simplest things. I mean, we're not talking about Sex Pistols songs where it's just like one or two parts and that's it.
Hey.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's total back to
Uh-oh.
like Mel Bay book kind of beginnings.
You think those songs don't take craft and skill? Really?
Well, I mean, we can go through down that rabbit hole another time, but but this is a little bit more. I would say, I think you would agree too that a Kiss song does have a little bit more harmonically and melodically going on than some of those other songs. So I think it definitely requires a little bit more of a sit down, and it is harder than what it appears.
All right, Lonnie.
Yeah, I think Kiss songs are more complex than what people give them credit for. Especially like I think Bruce's stuff. Bruce is talking about it. I think Bruce is much more of a technical player, and I feel like his stuff is is a little more complex than what people want to give him credit for. I think people just look at Kiss and go, "Oh, that's just nonsense. That's just slapping on makeup, and there's nothing really to their music." But I definitely feel that there's more to it than just three chords and just throw it out there. Especially Bruce's stuff, and I think that's where he really could be trying to stand up for his contributions to the band.
Yeah, there's a good comment from Super Zapper, and again, that goes back to the Art of Guitar piece on Peter's drumming on Alive and the ghost notes and some of the different patterns that come into it, that what seems simple or being done in some affected way from the other side of the stage is a little bit more complex than it seemed. Certainly musically, there's a lot more going on with some Kiss songs than meets the eye. And I think it's easy to underestimate them because of the gimmicks, whether it's in makeup or whether it's the gimmicks that were part of the show in the 1980s with Bruce's lineup in particular. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on musically, but there's also a lot of stuff that goes on in terms of songcraft. Ken?
Yeah, the problem is they don't get credit because of like you said, the gimmick, and so people think, oh, it's just a gimmick. They don't know how to play. It's just all for show kind of thing. But when you dig down deep into it, there are things going on there where a lot of it where it's whether it's Gene's bass lines or the way Ace plays off of Paul. They're playing different things, like you guys said earlier, and Peter's drumming too. I mean, it was unique, and it kind of never. Certain songs don't sound the same with someone else playing it. He just had a different flair, style. So yeah, they don't get credit for their musicianship, unfortunately, because it was decent. They practice a lot to craft those things and to craft their the way they played and everything. So yeah, I just think it's too bad. People, they still just, again, they look at it and they say, no, there's no way that they can play this kind of any kind of thing, any kind of music that's difficult or whatever, or complex in any way. You were talking about the Elder. There were some different. They did a lot of different things on that one compared to some of their other stuff. So it's like, whoa, this is not how they normally play, do certain things and the way they play certain songs. And it was quite a change. They could do it though. They did it.
Exactly. So Daniel, I want an interesting perspective from you, because you and Mark do the Kiss riff now and then, and we're overdue another one, aren't we, gentlemen?
Yes.
when you've dug into noodling around on some of those riffs, are there songs that you go, Bruce is absolutely right, it is more complicated than it seems?
Well, it makes me think of an old Europe song, "More Than Meets the Eye." Oh, then, but that's a good, great song with the Swedish band Europe, and I think there is. I think much is hidden, sometimes by records sounding kind of crappy and blurry, and it's hard to tell, and sometimes layers of music that makes it hard to hear everything. But there sure is some stuff there that people just don't hear, I think. Some guys just look at them as four clowns in makeup, and then of course everything falls by the wayside if you think of the band like that. But for sure there are some complicated things, some notes then that you don't hear. But I think one great thing about Kiss's music is that you can make simpler version of their music and it still sounds kind of good. I think that's a way for many people to start playing the guitar. I mean, you hear a Kiss song and you think you have it and it sounds good enough, but you miss out on a lot of stuff that they do. And so it's more complicated than you think. And I know some riffs that we did, I know, Mark, you told a story about "I Stole Your Love," for example. That riff, that was pretty unusual for a Paul Stanley riff, and there's lots of stuff like that. Maybe Mark can fill in with some of his thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, a lot of the times these guys tend to write in a certain key that they're used to, because one thing that we didn't touch upon was Paul's vocals, how important it is and how not easy it is to sing. I mean, usually when they do Kiss songs, everyone's like, yeah, we can do it. And then they realize somebody has to sing it. And then they're like, oh shit, okay, I'm not singing it, you sing it. I'm not going to, because they can't do it. It's so hard, right? And a lot of the times, they like to stick with the A key, the E, around there. But this is like C sharp, I don't know. It's not a common key for a Kiss to play in. And, that riff is very moving around. It's a lot of movement on there too, right? So it's not easy to play. I mean, a lot of this stuff, it sounds easy, but it's not. Try singing this and playing it. You'll have a hard time,
You had a good point there with Paul Stanley's voice. I forgot about that, because have you ever heard a good version of Heavens on Fire? Maybe the simplest song in the catalog, but no other band can do it. They don't have Paul Stanley.
Hey, I could play that solo.
Yeah, but sing it, Julian. I want to hear. I want to hear it with Julian vocals.
Oh, I can do the solos. To lick it up. I love it loud and Heaven's on Fire.
Right.
Good at both of those.
The yodeling start at the beginning of Heavens on Fire with Julian Gale. That would be something.
Just another thing, real quick. Those videos for the Just to Kill box set. Was it Frangione?
David Frangione.
Yeah, he does those. Those are very eye-opening, because when he goes through and he's on, the multi-tracks, and he just focuses on what Ace is doing only, or Paul's doing, or any of them. It's like, oh shoot, I never even really noticed that or heard that. And that's where Daniel's point of you kind of don't always hear it because it's just kind of mixed together. But then you're like, oh wow, that's so. And then you think, man, that's what makes it sound so good. The way they're doing this, these different things within within the tracks. So that's really an eye-opening thing. It shows you, oh yeah, see that they are good musicians. They were good. They knew what they're doing, and they did that. They recorded that that album 2 weeks or something. I don't know, but it's just, to me, it's amazing.
It's eye-opening how much reverb that guy puts on the reverb. Unbelievable what he was thinking.
Mark, Daniel, I don't remember off the top of my head. Have you guys ever tackled any Crazy Night songs?
I don't think
no.
so.
We should. Me and Daniel are overdue to do another episode of this, so maybe we should look at some of them.
All right. So here's a challenge and a request. When you do your next Kiss riff, challenge yourself to something from that category to illustrate the point about how complicated Kiss actually is in comparison with what people may expect. and maybe also marry it with Daniel's point about some of the things that sound complicated aren't necessarily complicated, and are good from a learner's perspective. Because that'd be a really cool tie-in. So,
Okay.
have at it.
We'll discuss it, right, Daniel?
Yeah, Mark's gonna sing My Way.
Homework.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, let's move
God.
on into one of the other topics from the board this week, and this one's just fun and quick and stupid. What is Gene's most devilish moment, Lonnie?
Most devilish moment. I don't know. I mean, I guess Gene drew in the blood. I mean, come on, what's more devilish than that? I mean, I don't know. Or maybe the devil is me. Maybe you could say that. I mean, say what you want about that song, but that's a little rough. Gene in full makeup, drew in the blood at Tiger Stadium. How about that?
There you go.
How about that? That's mine.
Not Gene with his eyes rolling back into his head in the unholy video.
Well, there is that, but I'm still going with Gene drew in the blood at Tiger Stadium. Come on, like them back on top in front of 35,000 and whatever it was people in front. Like Kiss is back, and people have been waiting. They were always the band that they used to wear makeup and they used to do this and they used to do that, and then here they are, they're back, and it's like a signature Kiss moment that a lot of Kiss Army members have been waiting for years, and it's like. That's pretty damn cool. I'm saying that.
Can I piggyback back off of Lonnie there, because I remember watching Extreme Close Up when I was a teenager. That video that they did in '92, and I think there was a video of Gene drooling blood to 100,000 years from like 75, 76.
Video, yeah.
And it looked sinister and mean, and I still recall being a bit taken aback. This looks real cool. So I have to say, I don't know if it's from Detroit 75, 76 or something.
Yeah,
I think
Detroit 76 is what this.
Yeah, I think that's his best and meanest moment on stage. When it comes to a song, I have to say Unholy. I think that's his meanest song when it comes to a studio song.
Mark.
What's interesting is everybody, when you think of devilish things, a lot of you guys are referring to songs, stuff like that. Whenever I think of something devilish, it's something that's bad and something that's, not good. The devil is looked at as such an evil thing. So I can't help but think that the most devilish thing Gene Simmons ever did was that atrocious, god-awful porno where he was wearing his socks on there, where that's got to be the most devilish, unholy thing that ever has spawned on people's eyes. And
I never saw it.
Brains.
Sure.
Well, consider yourself
I haven't.
lucky.
I haven't seen it.
You as a Gene guy,
I don't want to see it.
You have it probably on DVD or
to see
something
it.
somewhere.
Seriously, I don't. I never want.
I see the Blu-ray there in the back between the records.
but to me, that's got to be
4K.
the most oddest and devilish thing Gene has ever done.
I never seen it.
Maybe that's the most disturbing. I wouldn't call it.
Well, it's definitely devilish, See,
That's
Mark's speaking truth there. See if you look.
That is absolutely vile, Mark. Where's my ban button? How dare you remind us? I mean, when I think of devilish and all that, I mean, Gene's just a big Tonka teddy bear, really. I mean, this is a guy who thinks gymnasium is a big word. So thinking of him as a devilish in any sense is just ludicrous. But the picture of him on Alive 2, as mentioned in the in the chat by, I'm trying to find who it was, because Max,
a lot of
Super
people.
Zapper. I'm with you guys. That to me, and I used that as a basis for one of the shorts that I put up. That to me is evil incarnate. That to me is, it sums up his blood dripping, sweats ravaging, god of thunder. Yeah, that is devilish to me, more so than The Devil Is Me, which is more humorous than anything. So
yeah, for me,
his wig, yeah, Cheverus, yeah, Cheverus is pretty damn devilish.
For me, it's the same thing. Alive 2, I mean, yeah, that's when I, bought that album, the first album, and it's like, I mean, I'm looking at that picture right now because I have the Alive 2, award, whatever, that platinum award thing. And it has the 4 pictures of him, and yeah, that picture is just so awesome. It's like looks like he's been through a battle. He's all sweaty, hair is stuck to his face. The grin he's got, and his eyes are just like so evil looking right on that picture, and the blood just kind of dripping out. It's like and splattered. It's just one of the greatest photos of Gene ever. It probably is the greatest one, at least for a face or headshot. It's just perfect.
Yeah. All right. Eric Singer. So someone was making a playlist of the best songs Eric performs on, but not that. But when the question I want to pose to you is, when you think of Eric Singer's drumming, what is the song that immediately pops to mind? And you just think Eric Singer, boom, it's going to be that song. Mark.
Unholy. I mean, immediately to me, that's what jumps out. I mean, it was the introduction that we got to him as a on record thing. I mean, I know that he did those club dates before the album came out, so we did have a taste of him beforehand. But I mean, that's definitely the first thing that comes into mind. But just as a little ad lib to the side here, I think that his drumming on Alive 3 is just, that whole thing is just so fantastic. And I mean, one of the things I was never used to is he was such a stern counter of time. If you watch him when he drums, that hi-hat is constantly keeping time, even when he's not on it. It's just going up and down, up and down, up. And he's keeping time, and all his fills were perfectly in sync. And that's the one thing I was annoyed with Kiss, is after that tour happened, and they started doing the Alive 35 tour, they totally trimmed back his drumming. They made it a lot more simpler. He didn't do any of those kind of things anymore where he was counting constantly and doing stuff like that. They really pulled him back. And I thought that was a big disservice to his drumming. I think if you want to hear Eric Singer at his best, you listen to Alive 3, and as an individual song, I would always say Unholy.
Nice.
But not the live version, with Gene singing out of
Well,
tune.
no, I mean on studio for
Yeah.
but I mean the live
Yeah.
performances, his drumming is stellar.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel.
Well, I went through Poland this week, and I went for a train ride for 5 hours, and I read a lot and I listened a lot to Kiss music. And there's this great thing on Spotify, because you can't bring the vinyl on a long trip. That's why Spotify is kind of good sometimes. And there's this thing with unofficial soundboards on Kiss's channel. You can find, for example, the one I listened to was Buenos Aires, I think, 94. So I listened through that one just last week. 2 or 3 times, I think. And Eric Singer is a star of that show. I mean, to me, it's not new music that stands out for me when it comes to Eric Singer. It is how he interpreted the old stuff. I mean, Parasite. Wow, that sounds awesome on that Buenos Aires soundboard. How he changes the classic drum fill in Love Gun, ba ba da ba 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 da ba, and then he does it with the bass drums as well, double kick, do 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 do, just lifts that song. And Cold Jim, for example, he's a star of that song when you listen to it from '94 and that era. Wow, the fills, the things it does in that song really lifts it up and makes it feel like a contemporary song instead of something old. And that was the same feeling when I put on Alive 3 for the first time. I remember Heavens on Fire was my favorite song back then, and just the intro, he did a double kick in the intro. I never heard it, and when I heard that, I started listening more to him. And I mean, Deuce on Alive 3, wow, what a take on Deuce, even though the classic one is on Alive 1, but the one on Alive 3, I put it next to the classic one from Alive 1. So for me, it's the way he updated Kiss's sound. Eric Carr was a great drummer, but I think Eric Singer was even better.
Fair enough. All right, Lonnie, going
Well,
into your wheelhouse.
Right. I'm not going to be able to sit here and not talk about Unholy. First of all, I mean, his drumming on Unholy is incredible. So I'll echo Mark on that. His intro to Creatures on Alive 3 and just the way they play Creatures on Alive 3 is awesome too. I'm going to throw out a non-Kiss song, and that's Vengeance Is Mine from Alice Cooper. He sounds incredible on that.
Oh, yeah.
I was listening to that this morning, actually.
Good pick.
So I throw that. That's like maybe the last great Alice Cooper album, and that Vengeance Is Mine he sounds amazing on that. But you know, nothing really on Carnival really sticks out though, as far as like Eric's drumming goes. You know, thinking about that. I mean, Carnival, it doesn't, and I think that's I like Carnival probably more than the rest of you guys do. But that is a miss on Carnival. He's really not featured on that more because he did, to what Daniel said, he updated Kiss's sound so much, and like they, you know, and I know Kiss was going in a different direction than that, but I think that's a miss on Carnival of Souls, that it really doesn't feature him as prominently as it should. But those, and then just, you know, listen to those. Daniel's talking about 94, those South American shows in 94. And then those Japan and Australia shows in 95. Man, he's good. He's just on his game more than any other time with the band. And then to echo Mark, you know, that, you know, I feel like he was like the restraints were put on him at a certain point. And it's a shame. It's a shame to me because he is such a great drummer. And I wish he could have been more free all the way up to the end. But as far as like specific songs and specific moments, I'm going to go with, I know where Julian said one, but I'm going with 3, and that's Unholy, Creatures, and Vengeance Is Mine. I'm going to go with an.
That's okay, because I got 2 on my list, and it was a tie.
Speaking
Speaking of ties,
speaking of ties, Ken, what do you got?
yeah, Ken, what's your tie?
My tie? Oh, well, I agree with Unholy and maybe the whole Revenge album in itself, because you could really tell the difference between, not saying that he's better or whatever than Eric Carr or anything. It's just it was definitely a different style, different way he uses the drums for songs, and yeah, Unholy definitely stood out on that one. I went to that Live 3 meet and greet thing, which they call the party or whatever, and met him. And I told him that, I said, I love your drumming on Revenge. You know, he was very appreciative of that. I told him that at that time. I remember that. But I agree that something happened at some point where, yeah, Kiss or, you know, Gene and Paul, whatever, you know, they must have told them to change a little bit. Yeah,
dial it back.
And what I don't know. He wasn't the same. I don't think it has to do with, you know, his age or anything like that or whatever. I think they told him something, and to me that ruined it for me. They should have let him be free, because I think that's what he was. He was free, playing free on Revenge, and then at some point they, you know, didn't want him to, you know, do that anymore. So, which is unfortunate. So it is what it is.
No more fun for you, Mr. Catman. All right, so mine's emotional as always, because when I think of Eric's drumming, I could easily go watch Gary Moore live in Stockholm, 1987, for some fantastic freaking drumming. So drumming in a whole challenging kind of way, a demanding taskmaster for Gary Moore. I love a lot of the Black Sabbath that he did as well.
yeah.
Alice Cooper. Again, Lonnie was bang on with, I wouldn't have gone for that personally when I think of some of the stuff he's done with Alice Cooper. But going back to really my first impressions of Eric Singer back in 89? High Wire. Badlands.
Yes.
Every single thing in that song, from the drumming, which is the foundation, to the bass, to vocal performance, Jake E. Lee shredding the hell out of it. It all comes together with that backbone of what Eric is giving to the rest of them. With that, it's just pounding, it's just pulsating, it's just powerful, it's dynamic, it is just perfect for the era. That, I mean, total supergroup shit right there. I mean, I could easily go with, Born to Lose from Sabbath as well, for that sort of drumming style, which I really enjoyed. All his Kiss stuff, I mean, Revenge, fantastic. Alive 3, what he does there, fantastic. But I got to go back to that emotional time of he hasn't even come into Kiss, hasn't nothing to do with Alice Cooper at that point. And that's my introduction to him back in the Gary Moore Black Sabbath and Badlands era. So High Wire, oh fuck, great song,
Yeah.
great performance, great drumming. He's a great drummer, no doubt about it. All right, last couple of topics. I don't know about this one. This would be interesting to get your perspectives on. Do you think Kiss would have still released a disco song if they weren't on a disco label? Like one is a prerequisite to the other. Mark?
I don't know. I don't know if the label, excuse me, I don't know if the label had so much to do with it. I mean, sure it did, because they had Donna Summer and all those other acts on there as well. But I think that whole time period, disco was a very big sort of genre at the time. I mean, regardless if they were on Casablanca or on Mercury Records or whoever, I think that the allure of trying to make a top 10 single, I mean, Paul said he went to the club, their Studio 54, heard the song, said, hey, I could write that, and went back and write it. I don't think it had anything to do with Casablanca Records per se at that point. I think that he would have wrote it regardless.
I'm muted. Jesus, I must be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's going on there?
I was gonna say, what happened?
Kiss Save Disco. Lonnie.
I agree with Mark. I think at the time egos were really high, and Paul Stanley thought, oh, I can do that. What I'm such a great songwriter, and I can do whatever I want. I'm in one of the biggest bands on the planet. I can write a disco song too and have a big hit. So no, I think that they would have written I Was Made for Loving You, whether they're on Casablanca or whether they're on any label. I think it would have happened regardless. I agree with Mark.
Yeah, no, I don't think the label has anything to do with it. The Rolling Stones weren't on Casablanca. Blondie wasn't on Casablanca, So what's the label got to do with it? I think Paul's life experience has everything to do with it, not any label or anything else. Ken?
Yeah, I think part of it is, he probably thought, I could do that. I think with other artists like the Stones, Rod Stewart, those guys doing it too and having a successful song also influenced him. It's like, oh yeah, these other bands can do that, even though that's not their core style of music, they can do it. Well, I can do it too, kind of thing. Which is, kind of ego thing in a little bit way too. But I don't know if other artists weren't doing that. I don't know if he would have really thought of doing it. You stay in your lane maybe more, and not try to do that. So if I was the record company, though, again, I would have put I Was Made for Loving You as the last song on the album. But that's just me.
Or the first song on side 2. And Ken.
Yo, I see what you're saying.
Nice.
Daniel.
I think Kiss sort of had run its course by 77, and they started to looking at trends, and especially Paul. He wanted to be this acclaimed songwriter, and getting fame and fortune and approval from others. So he started to look elsewhere. What can I do in order to get ahead? And he really never stopped doing that after Dynasty. he started following trends, and he was good at it. And I Was Made for Loving You is just proof of how good he was at, taking a trend and making it his own.
There we go. That's a bunch of topics from the board for this week. We've got a couple more we didn't get to that we can probably talk about in some future episode. A lot of great comments from the audience today. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to chime in with your thoughts. If you're listening to this after the fact, leave your thoughts in the comments wherever you're listening to this, because we do the feedback loop, and I do read a selection of those and respond to them as we fill out the middle of the week. Tuesday every week, I think those go up. So that's it. So for now, from Lonnie, from Ken, Daniel, Mark, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we shall see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the message board and discuss the topics we've broadcast today. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you've listened to this show, and a like would very much be appreciated. We hope you'll join us again, but until then, remember, life's a radio. Turn it up to 10.